So first thing, can you just introduce yourselves for everyone to know?
Okay. My names are Daniel Adetayo Akinolaja Idope. And this is my one and only. That is for my mouth. Patricia Oluwakemi Abiodun Ajaido.
And how long have you been married?
We've been married 14 years and close to 2 months.
So how did you guys
We met in church. I went to another state in Nigeria to serve after my university education. It's a mandatory, like a paramilitary service that everybody must go through if you went to a higher institution in Nigeria. And I went to Delta State to serve for a year. And I came back. And fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, my first Sunday back in church, because I was my pastor's protocol officer, and I was with him everywhere. So apparently, I don't know, I came with him into church, and she got, I think it's good to hear from the officer's mouth.
You got game.
I don't know where to start from. Well, as a single lady, I was believing God for my future partner, but not really so serious about it. And yeah, well, to cut a long story short, one day he came to church and we was ushered to a seat where was near the door to the church, and I passed by and I saw this gorgeous all dressed up. I was like, but seriously, that was my feeling, and at the same time, that was the first time, and I haven't had any audible voice of God since then. That is the person. So I was like, who was that? After some time, hearing that, I wasn't going to allow that word or voice to get me, I don't know how to say it, but at times as a lady you will see a guy and you always want to be close to where he is and just get his attention, but I was like running away. Didn't want to be close to him and didn't want him to feel, okay, maybe she has something for me. But the long story short, he happened to have a friend who was in my, ushering him together with me. And apparently, maybe I should give the microphone to him.
Unfortunately for most things, the man is the last person to know. And this time too, it was very true. I had a lot of friends. Quite a number of them were ladies in church. known that whoever would be my wife would come out of that circle of friends. And when it was time, when I felt it was time, I went to my pastor and I told him. And he said, yes, I know, it's time for you to choose. He said, okay, please pray along with me. And he said, I've been praying even before you came to me. He said, okay. So I called 2 other friends. And the thing was, for me, I chose 2 friends that I knew, one, they were not afraid to tell me the truth. Secondly, they had no stake whatsoever in my choice or in the matter. And I asked them, guys, can you please just go and pray with me? And eventually, I got a word from God. And is, guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life. When I got that word, it did not make sense to me. One of my friends came back to me and gave me that same word, that was what he felt God was telling me. So now it took me time to go and sit down and think about it, because I was thinking about 2 people, to be honest. She was one, and there was another person. But she was the one that was in my heart. But my head was going for the other person. So it was at that point, I honestly, I had to go to God and I had to tell God, look, this is me. These are my feelings. This is where my heart is. This is where my head is going. You're the one that I know I have to do. So help me here. There's nothing I can do unless you just lead me. And it was at that point that that scripture actually made sense to me. And then when it was confirmed to me, I knew quite well that, yeah, this is where God is leading me. And that was when I actually went forward and I proposed to her.
Okay.
But I proposed to her in my car.
Brother John.
I proposed to her in my car, and she said to me, give me time to go and think about it. I'm like, really? Okay. So I left her. For 8 months, I did not say anything again. I didn't mention it again. Because I was so sure that that was God, what God was telling me. And then you're telling me you want to go and think about it? Okay, feel free. I'm going to give you all the time in the world to go and think about it. For 8 months, I didn't say anything. She was the one that now came back and said, what's going on? Did you ask me a question? And I'm like, yeah. Did you give me an answer? She said, yes. I said I was going to think about it. I said, yeah, you're still thinking, aren't you? When you're done thinking, you'll come back. Like, are you serious? I'm sorry. I'm a guy. I have my pride. But she eventually, it was that day actually, she came back with an answer and she said yes. So now I asked her, what exactly was it that you were thinking about? Because I knew she knew before I knew.
Okay.
She didn't tell me, but I knew she knew before I knew. And then she said she was going to think about it, and that was why I just decided to leave her to go and think. Take whatever time you wanted and go and think.
That's good. That's 2 questions. That's it. Okay, so we're going to fast forward to present times. And how do you guys now maintain your relationship and just through you being connected in the midst of the busyness of life, work, children, careers, and marriage?
That, especially here in Canada, takes God's grace. Because the system is not made for you to have adequate time with your spouse or for your family. So there are a lot of things that you're contending with, and you have to use wisdom to get it done. Over the past years, we were apart for 4 years because she came here with her daughter, Unica, in 2000, and I had to come join them 4 years after because, well, she was born here. As soon as we had our daughter in Nigeria, she got a Canadian passport, so I was the only illegal alien. So it took me 4 years to get my residency status to come and join them. So that was a challenge on its own to our relationship because I couldn't deal with love across the ocean. It wasn't part of me. I mean, it was a very, very difficult time. But God saw us through. And then coming here, having been apart for 4 years, and within those 4 years, having seen ourselves, I think, twice or thrice, twice in 4 years, it was very difficult. Actually, the first time I was seeing my daughter, they both came to Nigeria, and I carried her, and she asked her, "Do you know who's carrying you?" She said, "No." That broke my heart. That broke my heart, because she completely forgot who I was. So coming back here, it took us time to really, really work on the relationship and bring it back to the stage where it was before they left, and then to move it a step forward. It was a huge challenge for us because, one, they were semi-settled, and I was just coming into the country, and work, immigration, getting this done, getting that done, and then our daughter was there. It was a lot of challenge. And then, of course, our careers had to change. Because I got in here, I couldn't continue with what I was doing back home. I had to start from scratch. Because all the jobs I went for back then, they told me, well, sorry, you were overqualified or you did not have the Canadian experience. So I had to start from warehousing, to be frank, as a shipper receiver. That was where I started from. I left Nigeria as an assistant manager of a national newspaper. I got here, I had to start from shipping, receiving. But what I told myself was, hey, you've got a family to take care of. You've got a wife who's depending on you. You're no longer in Nigeria, you're now here. You've got a daughter who's growing up and looking at you, trying to figure out who and what is this man. And the truth of the matter is, tell us, Shaw or NMAX is not going to care that you just got into the country, you're facing challenges. They want their money. You have to pay bills. And from where we're coming from, we don't have that luxury of depending on the government. The government doesn't care about you. And so getting in here as a man, you've got to do what you have to do. And pretty much that was what we started at, and then we just had to start from scratch. She too had been doing just whatever she got her hands to do when she got in here, and when I came in here, we had to sit down and say, hey, we have to plan our lives now. Fortunately, when we had Sheyuta, like almost a year after, she had to take a 1-year mandatory maternity leave from work, and then she had to go to school. So from school, she got a better job. And so we now worked it out at that point that we must make sure that one of us is at home with the kids every point in time. And that is why she's working nights. So that I work days, she works nights. There's somebody at home every time. Because we wanted that attention for our kids.
That's good.
So we used that with
Wonderful. Okay, so especially with what you just told us, what's the thing that you appreciate the most about each other?
Words cannot express how much I appreciate him in my life. We went through a lot of challenges before we got married, which could have made intending couples to like, okay, go your way, I'm going my way. A lot of family challenges, a lot of spiritual challenges. But in the long run, before we got married, that situation, those challenges got us strong and got us together and just helped us to understand each other and understand why we're getting married, what we're doing. And I guess it's this initial challenges that helped us to be strong, even during that marriage when we get so far. And he's been a rock for me, because at times I come home from work, I'm so tired. He's taking care of the kids. At times he helps cook in the house, he helps cleaning the house. Without him, I'll be falling off my feet. I'll probably be sick or something, just down all the time with one sickness or the other. But I just thank God for him. I thank God he didn't allow the pride, because a Nigerian man will not do half of what he's doing right now.
For me, I believe that this is God's choice for me. And my being in Canada today would not have been possible if not for this choice. And for me, I know, and I'm sure that there is nowhere else I'm going. This is it. Done.
Yes, sir.
Done. I mean, no matter what comes, because when we were going through premarital counseling, they told us to go and write down, what was that thing? What the qualities that you see in each other, so that when you're facing challenges in the future, you can go to those qualities and they will remind you of what actually drew you together. And 14 years later, she still got them. Because those qualities for me were not, well, maybe 25% of them were physical. But 70 to 75% of them were the inner person, the actual person. Because I knew after babies, the figure's going to shape. I mean, the shape is going to go. The 8 is probably going to become 9. And I know that what I'm looking for is actually the personality of the person, and not the outward look of the person. And I thank God. Yeah, it helps. It helps. But that is not, I'm just talking to people who are not married yet, who are still thinking about it. That is not what you should be looking at. Because, God forbid, I watched a movie where a couple got married, and 2 years after, the man had an accident and he was paralyzed from the waist down. That is a huge challenge to the marriage. If you're basing everything on the physicality, because now he can't walk anymore, there are a number of things he can't do anymore, would you still love the person? And that is one of the things I want young people to think about. The physical thing will go. That's the truth of the matter. That's the way nature has fashioned it. So the physical attributes will be there, but the actual inner person should be what should count to you much more than anything else.
Wonderful. Wow, awesome. Okay, once again, without